So I do astrology, right? And in 2020, I started realizing that, wait a minute, the planets outside do not correlate with where astrology says they are. So I was like, what the fuck? So I started looking things up on an astronomy app and I realized, wait a minute, that's not where things are right now. What's going on? So then I started studying all different forms of astrology and I realized, oh, okay, tropical and sidereal and Vedic, none of them actually correlate with astronomy and what's happening within the sky above us. Why is that? That's weird. And then I was like, oh shit, if that's true, then that changes my entire natal chart as well. So now my hyper focus since 2020 has been to link up astrology and astronomy, and that's what I've been up to. And you might be like, why? Why would they tell us that things are where they aren't? The answer is power and control, and the people that run shit look at the actual astronomy, and then everybody else is left with this tropical psyop. But anyway, what are you up to?
We've convinced these foolish humans to just rely on tropical astrology.
Yes, we've switched the dates, and we even use a different calendar. And you know why we do this, right?
Money and power!
Yeah, that makes literally no sense.
Who the hell are you?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but y'all have spring in the Northern Hemisphere on March 20th, right?
Yeah.
And to my understanding, that date never seems to change from year to year, correct?
But what about the precession of the equinox?
Wait, you don't believe zodiac signs are constellations, do you?
But they're named after the constellations.
You're a conspiracy theory that only exists because people suck at math. Oh my god, we're not even real.
So I do astrology, right?
With all due respect, you and people like you, y'all don't do astrology. You do disinformation. Here, let me explain.
I started realizing that, wait a minute, the planets outside do not correlate with where astrology says
That statement is unequivocally false, mainly just because astrology is based on the zodiac. Remember, the zodiac is based on mathematical divisions created by the Earth's celestial equator and its intersection with the sun's ecliptic path. This creates the season. Say it with me. The season. In the Northern Hemisphere, the vernal equinox falls about March 20 or 21st as the sun crosses the celestial equator going north. What causes the seasons? In the Southern Hemisphere, the equinox occurs on the 22nd or 23rd of September when the sun moves south across the celestial equator. There are only 2 times in the year where the Earth's axis is tilted neither toward nor away from the sun, resulting in a nearly equal amount of daylight and darkness at all latitudes. So what you see here being created is a false equivalency. The math and the literal science based off of the zodiac is being falsely equivocated with astronomy apps and this whole notion that zodiac signs are constellations. When you hear people say that the planets do not match up, they are unknowingly mistaking the zodiac constellation groupings for the actual invisible imaginary space that is the zodiac. Once again, the words constellation and sign depict different things. You can see that at the bottom of this article. This is why a constellation that could be visibly seen is not a sign which communicates information. This is why God in Genesis 1:14 said, "And let them serve as signs to mark sacred times." So it's one thing to lie to people and tell them, the astrology apps you're using are wrong. But the fact that most of you are middle-aged adults and don't know the difference between constellation and zodiac signs, well, we could just blame the failure of your education system for that. But what is the reason we hear being said that things are the way they are?
And you might be like, why? Why would they tell us that things are where they aren't? The answer is power and control, and the people that run shit look at the actual astronomy, and then everybody else is left with this tropical psyop.
Anyone who has to rely on baseless conspiracy theories, which are vague and not in any way specific, nor in any way are based in reality, probably shouldn't be taken seriously. And that's why I have a problem with these people who say they do astrology. I do astrology. I have read charts for over a decade, and I have 3 Astro.com accounts that have over thousands of charts in them. Most of these people telling you they do astrology, they just talk about astrology. And clearly, they don't even know the science of the zodiac. Anyone that cannot tell you the significance of the Earth's celestial equator, the sun's ecliptic path, its intersection, and how that creates the zodiac signs, they don't do astrology. The precession of the equinox changed the constellations that align with these equinox points based on a zodiac. It never actually changed the season. We know this is true, well, because if it changed, the next spring equinox would not still be in March 20th. So in conclusion, I have once again proved that the only people you hear saying this nonsense about the dates have switched, those astrology apps aren't correct, are people who realistically have no understanding of the science of the zodiac, and people who literally have to blame cloaked, hooded figures behind closed doors who do all this for money and power. By the way, for those of you who wonder where I get these sources, if you type in new dates in astro.com, this new dates for sun signs is a must read. There's sources included there. This is where I usually source a lot of these arguments. Please read it. You can also type in Ophiuchus in astro.com. Make sure you read this article here. Astro.com is actually built by professionals who practice this. So someone doing astrology doesn't mean that they practice it, because if they practiced it, they would at least know the basics. Peace.